Hi everyone, it's Tonia, and I'm here with you with Tea with Tonia today. I'm super excited because it's been a little bit of a break since I've done the interviews, and I am in a new location now. So coming to you now from Brooklyn, but I am super excited for the interview today as I'm interviewing Raul Espinoza that we have here, and just again the mission and the vision of doing the Tea with Tonias and why they're so important is in my life, I realized that I am very grateful for the people that I meet, and I meet really awesome people in my life. And I sometimes feel like the stories of amazing people don't get out there. I put the news on and there's always negative. So this is my way of putting out the really inspirational stories from just the people that I meet. So it's sharing extraordinary stories of ordinary people. And so today I have with you again, Raul, and him and I met, God, I think it's 4 years ago now, I think, or
I think so.
I think it might be that long. And me and him met at a workshop, and he was there as a photographer. I was there as a participant, and then a whole bunch of stuff happened after that. But his journey is really awesome. And so I will give him the chance to just say who he is, where he's from, and what it is that he does.
What's going on, world? All right. So, in short, I'm a photographer, filmmaker, consultant, to say the least. I guess I was born in Texas, raised in New York. But a little recap, a nutshell on the journey I took a personal development course, and that snowballed into me being a life coach over the last 11 years now, off and on. And I've been able to be fortunate enough to mix all my loves together of working with people development through photography and film, and been able to travel the world and create impact everywhere I got to go. So the journey has been really abundant. It's been quite an adventure and is far from done. And yeah, so that's what
Yeah. So just always that I've asked people is what is the pain point? Or, right, you talk about how you went to this workshop and it sort of like snowballed into something different. And part of what I really want to get out of like sharing the stories of people is to really embrace that. I always feel like when you see someone's success, you always see the final product of it. You always see the end of it and think that it's this easy thing. And sort of what I want to embrace too is like the journey along the way and the steps that got us to where we need to go. And so I know a lot of your story, and a question that I ask everyone is always like, what was a pain point, or one of those like pivotal moments that you had to choose something different in order for you to be living like that life where you're creating impact, where you're traveling the world and doing all of these things. So, and it could be more than one, but if one pops in, like definitely share that.
Yeah. The pain point, what's funny, when I work with people or when I talk to people about my journey and my life, a lot of times I'm fortunate enough when I share this story, I get the common feedback is, wow, you're living the dream life. You get to travel all over the world and do this stuff and just live the life that I've been living. And I'll go more into what that looks like or what that has looked like up until now. But the pain point has been a consistent choice in the journey. People think that this stuff might just happen by chance or by accident, and it doesn't at all. It really comes with the accumulation of stepping into your power every moment, at every chance you could recognize and take. And so even doing the work of consciousness, you have to be willing to face yourself, face your fears. They don't just remove or leave you. It's something that you have to learn to redefine your relationship with it. So as I've been on my journey in that self-exploration, I had to face myself. I had to face my deepest demons. And they never go away completely. They're always some level of there. And the more you grow, you actually discover and see new levels of it. And you know exactly this. As we dig deeper into our soul, like more and more things start coming up. It's like, oh man, I didn't know how to deal with that also. So
Yep. I
think my pain point is the things that we learn from our upbringings, the harsh lessons. I love my family dearly, and but we had our struggles like most families do, and we went through our ups and downs. And my interpretation on how I chose to receive that and what I chose to do with that information made all the difference in leading me to where I'm at now. And what happens through that is just choosing to be in an empowering conversation and be like, okay, cool, this is occurring for me. What do I want to do about it? And what's the choice that I'm making? And thankfully, I've gathered so much consistency and that snowball effect of choosing to, all right, cool, I'm gonna make magic out of this. I'm gonna make magic out of this. Until little by little, I'm living the life that I want to live. And till this day, I still go through struggles. New obstacles come in my way, and you just have to face them and go and step into something bigger.
Yeah. And sort of kind of came in when you were sharing something that I wanted to just touch upon, that you said that it's so true, and I can relate to, right? And being your own business and creating the life that you want is it's a choice you have to make every day. Like, it really isn't this one pivotal point. It's like there was that one pivotal point where you decide to awaken to a different life. And then after that, it's a commitment every day to choose to create every day and be in that flow. But also what that I want to just share is that what I've learned too along with the journey is that it never ends. It's a spiral, right? So it's like you had mentioned, fears that you come across, and sometimes family, patterns or whatever it is that you've grown up with have come up. And I always feel like I've had my demons, and they show up each time I up level, but it's from a different viewpoint. So it's sort of sharing that they never go away. And it's not to discourage people, but I guess it's to kind of just embrace that, like, that's a part of it. It's like you unpeel the onion and you find out something, and then you get to the next level and you see it differently, and it just shines a new light on it. So I know for me, it feels like the journey is a spiral where you kind of think you got through something, and then you see it differently, and it's like, oh, I recognize you, you little shit. It's like, it's back again. So it's sort of like, I don't know if you found that for yourself too, in like always creating something new for yourself.
Yeah, a really good friend of mine, Mark, actually, as well. We were having this conversation recently, and if you look back at 5 years ago, we were on top of our game. We were like killing it, and we felt unstoppable. We felt like, oh man, things are really working really well. And one of the things that I discovered in that conversation is that we were masterful in working within the parameters that we were comfortable in. And the more we grow, we step into a whole another level of empowerment and struggle at the same time. Because as we grow, as we expand, it's like the journey of consciousness is like we accumulate information and accumulate knowledge. And at a certain point, it becomes a tipping point where we become part of something bigger. And it's no longer me that's collecting this information, but I'm joining in with something of, for the lack of a better term, of a higher power, of a higher energy flow. And when we do that, we start to let go of what we think we know, and we start becoming really open to what we might discover and where we might be wrong about something. And it's a really scary moment to be in. It's very uncomfortable because we're no longer in that little bubble of comfort, though that comfort, we make it big, we make it dynamic. I've seen you grow from just the idea of wanting to do something into like, yeah, let's do it. Let's run towards it. And, there's so many people who trade off a life of abundance and a life of a dream so that they could feel comfortable and safe. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with comfort and security. But what if we were so comfortable within ourselves and we trusted ourselves so much that no matter what we do, we could always land on our feet and we could always fly high with the choices that we make, as long as we're leading from our hearts, right? It's not about being reckless. It's not about being careless, but it's about, okay, this is something that's really important for me and I'm going to go for it. Yeah. So it's really being able to recognize that and still be conscious about the choices that you're making. So it's been a ride.
It has been. And then part of what comes through for me is that, whether people know you or not, what I want people is if you could share your journey, meaning what you went to school for, what you did, because like we're now talking about the end product that you're doing, cinematography, photographer, traveling the world, but hasn't always been that way. So just letting people know. So like, what'd you go to school for?
Yeah. Well, I went to school for industrial design. When I was 5 years old, I declared I wanted to be an architect, and I was hell bent on being a designer. Not just an architect, but a designer. I used to play with GI Joes and these little like toy soldiers, and I used to build houses out of cardboard for these GI Joes, and I used to build them to scale. I used to, take a little ruler and measure what's the heel to the kneecap and how tall the stairs should be, and I was always really conscious with that stuff. I used to love drawing, and so design was always a love of mine, and I always imagined becoming a designer and being able to design stuff that helps people and really serves for people's lifestyles. And then before I went to school, I got a chance to move to Spain to coach for a company where I bought my first camera, and I started taking photos of the street life and the food vendors and the moms and the kids running around and the laborers and the architecture and how people responded to their environment. And I was really fascinated by that. And so I ended up going back to school. I ended up going to school for design. And while I was going to school, every chance that I got to travel into another country, and I would do what I love to do. I dive into the community, dive in with the people, fall in love with their way of doing things, and document it so I could share it. And then I got to work with phenomenal people, with our dear friend Shauna, and traveling to the other side of the world, where me, you, Shauna, and Marcus, and all we got to work with creating change for a community. And that was the breaking point, because at that point I was already a designer. I was already designing for a company. I loved my job, loved what I was doing, but I realized that there was something in me that wasn't completely fulfilled. And the part of that is that there's an importance in making an impact in other people's lives. And as much as I love design, it wasn't the biggest possibility that I saw for myself. So that was another pain point. I'm letting go of an attachment that I had since I was a kid of like, no, I've always wanted to be this. Because so many people are afraid to derail and take a step back from all they work towards, because what if they lose it all?
And what you went to school for too.
Yeah. Saying I accumulated debt and and did a lot of work and slept 4 hours a night to sustain my job and my education and help out, my family, take care of myself. And I chose to take a step back from that and pursue what I love doing. And then since then, I've gotten to travel a ridiculous amount, even more. It went from traveling one country a year to 2 to 4 to 7 to 10. And then I became a nomad and traveled for 2.5 years straight and got to touch all parts of the world and work with people. And that really gave birth to receiving what I feel like I'm meant to do, to be willing to let go of what I already have figured out, of what I already know, so that something bigger could come in. And it's been a blessing, and it's been a harsh ride, but it's been the best one. I wouldn't have chosen anything different.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to touch on that too, because it's right. It's making that really hard decision of not choosing from your past, but choosing for what you want to create, because it's sort of like that attachment binds us, like it limits us. And yes, you put in all of this time to go to school and all that you did, and like you said, the debt you paid for school, and now you're not going to do this, but there was something in you that was like, yeah, I would have a happy life, like I would enjoy it and it would be happy, but it was something bigger, like passion, like joy, that you knew, like your heart's calling to really do what you want to do, and you took that leap to do that. And I think that's so important to share, especially for people who are getting out of college. I mean, I always say it, I still don't know what I want to do. I'm doing it, but I'm kind of allowed now where I kind of just go where I'm being led. And it sounds silly, and I know when you have debt and money to worry about, that it's not always an easy thing, but that's why I like talking about the pain points, because it's talking about the reality of what it is. Like, it's not easy to choose that, but it's definitely a path that's worth it when doing that. And no, I kind of feel like we do get rewarded for it once we start doing it. I mean, look at what you just said. You traveled from one country to 5 to 10. And now not only are you not doing the photography now, but you're doing cinematography now too. So talk a little bit of that now, what you're doing with that.
Yeah, yeah. To piggyback, to wrap up the design world, my whole intention for design was to exercise my creativity, which is something that's really important for me, and at the same time be able to touch and support people. And I was doing that in an indirect way through my design, or was trying to see how I could figure that out from design into to impacting people. And then I saw photography and film as my opportunity to do that a lot more without our boundaries or barriers or interpretation. I got to sit right in front of the people that I want to support. I got to meet my heroes from around the world who stand up for their communities despite all odds. And it was my joy to be able to do that. And now I launched my business in doing it because whether or not you're in this third world country struggling or striving to survive, and we could work together to create abundance in your reality, to the CEO that's right next door who stands for something, who stands behind their company because they know their company means something to them and they want to create that for others. I could bring that story to life. And so over the years, as an artist, I used to see things and I would want to draw it. And then eventually I would want to take a picture of it. And then I would see things. I'm like, oh man, I really want to capture that in video. And I started doing that. And all of my creativity through anything I do, I gear it towards what really means something to me. And that's impact and creativity. And how can we use artistry to send a powerful message that actually pulls us together? And I discovered a sweet balance where I could do that for my clients here in New York or around the States to around the world, and being able to bridge that gap. Uh, One of the trips that I went to was in Iraq, and I got so much heat for going to Iraq from my family, from other friends that like, are you crazy? You're going to Iraq. This is dumb. The conflicts that are over there. And I don't negate the fact that the world is the world. I understand that there's serious matters around the world like that are currently going on. I'm not naive to that, but it's not the whole story. There's something empowering there, and at the core of everything, we're born human, and we learn these things. And so I got to go over there and work with people who are making as much of a difference for their community than anyone else around the world. And I got to change the narrative for people when I came back and provide something new for them. And that's what I do through my art. I want to inform people about something that's going to help us and pull us together through working on your brand, through working on your video, or through storytelling for something that really matters.
And I love that you just went there with it, because it's, and yes, the branding and everything else, but it's the storytelling. It's sort of like the purpose of doing like these interviews too, where it's, the narrative is always the negative, right? Like, you're going to Iraq. Why are you going? You're going to get killed. Like, all of the, and yes, it's true. And underneath it, there's something else that's going on. And right, everyone's not going to go, but you will, and bring back a story so that you could start sharing that by putting out your work and your videos and your, right, like the promos and everything that you put together, the documentary, the story, like, and show like, yeah, it's that, but then there's people there. There's stories there. There's amazing people there. And just showing people that even if they're not willing to change, like go there, they could be impacted and their mindset can be changed, right? Like, we could broaden people's minds by the work that we're doing and by storytelling. And it doesn't have to be, and it could be from their home if they're not willing to travel. So I just think it's always awesome that what you're doing, and then how you turns into your passion of travel, and then turns it into something that you could get paid to do as well, where it is now your life's work, and now you get to have fun while doing it, which leads me to my next thing is like, what are the experiences of joy that you have in your life? Because I always talk about pain, but then also think that joy is such a huge, like what we could follow to live a life full of joy, do the career that brings us joy. So question I always ask is like, what are ways that you experience joy in your life?
The first thing that comes to mind is spending time with the people that I love. Community is so important to me, whether here or far, and spending time with people that you love, recognizing the people that can support you in growing and learning and support what we're stepping into, and people that could also just catch you when you need to feel comfortable right now and be received. Uh, One of the things that I talked a lot to different people about is that people ask me, well, what if I don't know? What if I don't know what I want to do for my passion? Like, it's photo, video, it's impact, it's all that stuff. So what if I don't know? I tell them, it's like, how often I don't know?
Yeah.
Even with me practicing what I'm doing, you know how often sometimes like I could doubt myself and battle that idea, but it always comes back to what I'm doing now because I've exercised action into what I want to see. I see a lot of people who don't know what they want to do, so they don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I see people that I'm not sure what direction I want to do, so I just do what I know to do and stay still. And we're not going to get any closer to that. So me tapping into purpose, to me, I tie joy in with purpose, is doing what I love to do because I'm the happiest when I'm spending time with the people that I love and when I'm giving back to them and others. That's my heart is so full when I'm giving it back from when we get to contribute to people that we know and don't know. And
Yeah.
I get to take that work around the world and be able to do so. I get to like dive into different cultures. I'm fascinated by cultural diversity. I got to live in Brazil and Spain here, and to be able to move around and do what I love to do and know that this is what I'm choosing, not something that just happened to me or something by coincidence. That makes me really happy, despite how hard those times could get. At the end of it, at the end of the day, if I had all the money in the world, if I had all the time in the world, what would I do? I would do what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And it's great that you're able to ask yourself that question because part of what I was just thinking about when you were sharing too is, for people who don't know, like I was in that place too 2 years ago where, was quit all my clients, had my own business, had the dream, and then was like, I need to fire myself from my own business. Great, like amazing. And it was all I was standing in was I don't know. And like the sort of thing that I gave myself was like permission to play. And it's sort of like what you said about
Yeah.
purpose and joy. And it was sort of like if you don't know, then it means there might be something new that's coming through. Like we grow. So what brings us joy 5 years ago might not be the same thing anymore. And it's sort of just like giving ourselves permission that it can change as well, but to like follow the curiosity, and go along with that. And it's like you said, if you were to stay with only what you knew, you would only be doing design and you would have just stayed with photography. You wouldn't have gotten into cinematography. So it's sort of like just giving yourself permission to like go along with the curiosity and then play, which is taking the action on it so that you have to experience it because what we create in our mind is totally different than the actual experience of when we do it. So kind of love that you touched on that with joy, which then goes into now, what is like a golden nugget or something you would like to share with people who are watching this or wisdom that you would like to just share or just, something you like to give?
A couple of things pop up. The first thing that pops up are your words, actually, to me. Your words that you told me before that ring true for me is stop trying to do things and just listen to your heart and do what you love to do, right? There's so many times I get caught up on the actions on being successful that what do I need to do to bring that to life and get busy and do work and put work to it. And I love doing the work, so I love going for it. So I don't mind it, but I get so caught up on chasing my own tail on what I'm supposed to do. And you would tell me, just do what you love to do. Do what you love to do, and that always paves its way. And that's so true. I look back at every successful moment I had, from gallery shows to exhibits to my, I'm a dancer, I'm a musician. Like I've been able to do all this stuff, all because I was really fascinated and loved to do it. And it reminds me of another point of happiness shouldn't be our action. People try to do things to make themselves happy rather than do what is really real for them and what they want to do. And happiness is just a byproduct on following your heart. But happiness isn't this, let me do this so I could be happy. Let me do this so I could feel X, Y, and Z. It's not that. That's the byproduct on really listening to what's really real for you and playing around and having fun and being able to enjoy that. I still practice and I still struggle with, not taking life too seriously and being able to just enjoy myself and enjoy the ride and acknowledge myself, acknowledge that what I've created, don't beat yourself up. And it's just all feedback. And what do you want to do with this information? And if we could keep on playing around and having fun, exploring the worlds that we want to explore, knowing that where it's coming from, knowing that it's from a good place, you just can't go wrong with it.
Yep. Yep. It's like as I hold my feather, like be silly with it. Like, but it really is. I mean, that's why, well, no, it's that sign that's there. And it says like happiness is contagious. And it is that thing of happiness. And so many times people think, right, there's the illusion of waking up and jumping up out of bed. And I always say, like, I don't wake up and jump out of bed. Like, I'm not happy every morning. Like, it's pretty dark some mornings. And like, it's not that, but it's the choices that I make. And I'm just like, okay, what does my heart want to do? And it's not always these positive things. Sometimes it's just honoring, like, I don't want to do shit today. Like, I don't feel like being productive today. I don't want to do a damn thing. And it's about honoring our truth, like, right? And it's like the heart's intentions instead of what we think is going to make us happy and all of that. Like you said, I just love all of that because I think, again, like, it's not, these aren't normal conversations. I know we have communities that this is the way that we speak, but I know that that's not the norm that's out there. So it's just invoking people's mind to start thinking of these things, and they're not alone. It's not, I don't want to say an easy thing, but it's definitely a commitment to be made every day. And it's a choice every day to be made to kind of just live a life that we love and just celebrate ourselves. And the other thing, we don't celebrate ourselves enough. Like, waking up, if we're breathing, we're meant to be celebrated. That's my other motto. It doesn't matter about, yes, you've traveled 28 countries, and it's something that I say to you quite often. And I was like, and on a day, if you did nothing, you'd still be just as magnificent as you are on that day. So it's sort of like also just remembering, like, if you're breathing, you're worthy. And it's sort of like that as well. So yeah, I appreciate you coming along and just sharing your story, because I always love everything that you've created and how much it's changed and how much you've allowed it to happen and then took it and then turned it into something that was yours and successful, and just keep allowing it to change. And I think that's just a powerful message to get out there. So yeah, thank you for coming today and just sharing your time and your story.
No, absolutely. I also want to take a second to acknowledge you, because I mean, we've seen you and we've been part of each other's journey for years now. I mean, it's only been 4 years, but it feels like a lifetime of like seeing all the progressive change and all the moments of doubt of not knowing, and then stepping into trying something out and discovering what stuff is there. It's like we don't know until we go there and see for ourselves about, like, is something for me? And it doesn't have to be the biggest, grandest career move, all this stuff. It just means this is what I want to implement in my life. This is the part that I want to live. And it's really been, it's such an honor being here, because I've heard you speak about this. It's like, I want to sit down on my couch and talk to people about their life, because I just want to give, not just for us to have our conversation, but for all the people that are listening, for the people who you speak with. And if we could all just start tapping into living the life that we want to live, what are we going to be teaching the next generation? What are we going to be teaching the generation that follows that? How can we give so much life and possibility to the future? And that comes from you awakening yourself. And I really, I give you so many props for doing this and, facing everything that you had to face in order to be here and to give that gift to people. Really, it's an honor.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been interesting and it's been fun, but it's cool to be doing that and standing in it. And that's when it's like, following the fear sometimes is where it's at. It's a reclaiming of something, and it's the little moves. But yeah, and for everyone who doesn't know, like, I had a fear of doing videos and being in front of the camera, like dead, just like never heard my voice recorded. So the fact that this is happening and all of that, that's what we're speaking about and everything else. But like, you tap into what you want to do, or at least I tapped into that passion and that joy. That's why I'm so much talk about joy, because the joy overrided the fear. And that's how I got past the fear. I didn't push through it. I didn't endure it. I overrided it with the feeling of joy of what that freedom was going to feel like. And that's what I think is really the hard thing versus, and we've been in the coaching world and everything else. And I feel like sometimes the message can be too to push through versus there's other ways of doing things, but it doesn't always have to be so hard. There's other ways of doing it that like with joy, with love and all of that. And I think, makes it a little bit easier. And people, you said it, community is everything.
Yeah, for sure. I've been able to make some of the best of friends all over the world and to hold me to that higher standard of how we get to be, and it's when we say the work is not always this tough, exhausting, serious thing that we need to wrap around. I think a lot of people even are afraid to make a lifestyle change or moves because they think it needs to be permanent. It needs to be forever. And I need to come up with this masterful plan that's going to last for the rest of my existence. It's not, it's about being here and honoring your truth. And the only way you exercise being the person that you want to be is by taking action on it and not just sitting and waiting for something else to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. Yeah. So now you have 2 websites now. Let's see if I don't mess this up. So for any of you who want to learn more about Raul, you could go to liveloud.co. And is it RE Photography, right?
Yeah, Raul Espinoza Photography.com.
That's right.
Yep. I wanted to make it a very long name.
Yeah, and you could go there for all of his photos of impact around the world, just like everywhere that he's traveled, those are his photos. And then for LiveLoud, if you want to find out more about his branding and cinematography, but I will also include those at the end of this post. We'll have both links so that you could check out his website and find out more about him and all the amazing things that he's doing out in the world. So thank you all for viewing and checking us out. And Raul, thank you for coming. And everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.